Hello everybody. Hopefully you guys are all on here today. We have a guest today. Jim's going to be on in a little while, Jim Hendricks. Let's see. There's a couple of you guys on here. Hello, Halibut Man. Hello, Kevin. 3216, Robert. Hello. Ruben, Drama, Terry. Hi, everybody. Hey, 907. So just a reminder, the PCS show starts this Thursday. We'll be there. Tomorrow we're going to be setting up. Some of the guys are going to be coming by the office tomorrow. We're going to load up our truck, go to Orange County and set up for the show. Hey Kevin, how you doing? Hey Orchid, see you at the show. John the Tuna Slayer, D-House, Kyle, Brett. Brett's going to come to the show. That's good. Hey, Brian. So we got people from all over the place today. Cool. We have some here from Facebook, but majority of you so far are from YouTube. That's where I expect it. Adrian, how you doing? David, Tony. Well, stop by our booth. We're in booth, I want to say it's 724. Booth number 724. Kevin, how bad is it up there, Johnson? I heard it's... I heard on the news a lot of people can't even get any supplies or anything up there in Big Bear. It's been pretty rough. Here's a little video I thought you guys would enjoy. Nice Johnny bass here on the Magic Metal Jig. I'll keep this one. All right, so I want to demonstrate to you how ridiculous the fishing is here. Here's a Magic Metal Jig. I'm going to drop it about 5 feet over the side. I'm going to catch a fish. And this is going to take about a minute, maybe that long. So let's come right over here. I'm going to take this jig. I'm just going to drop it down here. You should be able to watch the jig get bit. I'm just going to go down about 10 feet. Just swing it around here slowly. There's fish all over it right there. See the fish coming up after it? There, I got a fish already. And just to prove to you that this wasn't a fluke, I'm gonna do it one more time. Little fish, let it go. Take the jig, drop it right here where you can see it. See the jig right there in the water? That was a Johnny bass. That's a black rockfish. There it is, right there on the surface. And we're not snagging them, hooking them right there in the mouth. Just ridiculous, ridiculous fishing. That was a little video for you guys.
Kevin says all roads at Big Bear are closed except for supply trucks. Hey Jeff, how you doing? So I invited Jim Hendricks. He's going to be on here in a little bit. And a lot of you were asking questions about the 30-30, what's going to go on there, and what the politicians are trying to do to close down 30% of the ocean by the year 2030. So Jim's going to come on and explain all that to us. As a reminder, I want to thank Boomerang for being a part of this. And there's their tool. Pretty cool tool. You should all have it. Yeah, I heard that it was pretty bad up there, that hard to get supplies or anything. People were walking long distances to get to the little stores that had some stuff, and it sounded like lots of people are running out of stuff up there. So hopefully, the weather's supposed to get good over the weekend, so hopefully people will get more supplies and stuff in. So Terry sounds like she's getting a little bit better. Two more weeks and she can go home. Oh no. 4 to 6 weeks before she can go home. That's not good. So the lake's only down 13 feet from full. They'll probably fill up good once all the snow on the mountain starts to melt. Should be pretty full. Yeah, so we're going to hear a little bit from Jim here in a minute or two about how all that works. Kevin, sorry if I gave you that cough. Hopefully it wasn't so bad on your trip. Tomorrow you can let me know how your cruise went. So, all right, guys. I'm going to have Jim on here right now, and we'll have him explain everything to you guys. What's going on with this project? Let me put you over here. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Dan?
Pretty good. If you guys don't know Jim, he is the saltwater editor for
Saltwater Sportsman
Saltwater
Magazine.
Magazine. He's also one of the best local fishermen from a private boat. He catches a lot of white sea bass, halibut, lots of fish on his private boat. He's got a. Do you still have the Cabo?
I still have the Cabo. I got it in, well, it's 37 years old now and still going strong.
Yeah.
And so I tell you what, my boys grew up on that boat, my three boys, and they won't let me. They won't let me get another boat. They said that's the only boat they want to fish on. So not that I could afford a new boat anyway. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for
anyway,
joining us. Some of the
thanks.
people on here were asking for about the last month or so about the 30-30 project and what it's all about, the details of it. And that's why I reached out to you when you suggested me running that little video. But I think it'd be nice. We have people here scattered all over the state from Northern California. We even have a few people out of state right now, but a lot of locals from California. So, guys, this is Jim. I'm going to let him talk to you directly. And if you have any questions, put your questions on the side, and he'll be glad to answer them for you. So,
Absolutely. Well,
go ahead,
thanks. I
Jim.
appreciate Appreciate the opportunity to be here and to talk a little bit about the 30 by 30 plan going on right now in the state of California. Before I get started, I just want to let you know that I'm a lifelong California saltwater angler. I've done this my entire life. My first fish I ever caught was a bonito, believe it or not. And I always have enjoyed going out on the ocean. I enjoyed the freedom. I enjoyed making memories with my family. That's what fishing's all about: is planning and being with friends and family and making memories and exchanging high fives and hoots and coming back at the end of the day and celebrating while we're washing the boat. So that's really what it's all about. So I don't really like to get into politics that much. I really don't. That's not the fun part of fishing. The fun part is going out and pulling on fish. But I have to say, what's going on right now in the state of California threatens our pastime, what we love to do, what everybody here on the line loves to do, and that is fish. 30 by 30, if you're not familiar with it, is a plan that will aims to set aside 30% of coastal waters and lands and inland waters as well. But in our case, I'm most concerned about coastal waters. Set aside 30% of our coastal waters as protected by the year 2030, and it really is no joke. This What's happening is that the the very well-financed environmental groups have kind of taken over the process. They shanghaied the process here in the state, and by what they want to do is ignore all the proven management practices that we have in the state of California for fisheries, fail to recognize them as legitimate conservation measures, and think the only way to the only way to protect the coast is through marine protected areas. Now, I have to say this: 16% of the coast, California coast, is already protected by marine protected areas. So what 30 by 30 aims to do is add another 14% to basically double the number of MPAs along the coast and at the offshore islands. And and I have to say, I first of all, I'm kind of speaking to you on behalf of Coastal Conservation Association of California. I sit on the state board of directors, and I'm the marketing chair for the state organization. We really have gone through this process before with the Marine Life Protection Act implementation. Anglers sat by and believed that fishing would be allowed within the implementation plan. And what had happened is a big percentage of the coast got shut down to fishing. And now we're seeing that happen all over again. We're seeing what we call MLPA 2.0. So it's happening all over again. They're doubling down. The state and environmental groups are doubling down, and they're trying to shut us out of another 14% of the coastal waters for a total of 30%. So that's what's going on right now, and it has been a battle so far. We've launched, we being CCA California, have launched a public awareness campaign to try to make people aware. That's why I'm here tonight. I'm here to make people and anglers aware of what's going on, and really telling them how they can fight back. So what we're asking is that anglers join CCA California. We're the only organization in the state right now fighting for anglers' rights. And we have enlisted a whole crew of marketing and government relations specialists to try to preserve angling access as 30 by 30 becomes law. So that's essentially what I'm asking, and I don't know if anybody has any questions, but that's the plan. You may have seen some of our ads. You may have seen some of our videos that are going around on social media. And you will see a huge presence at the PCS show this week. We're gonna have all kinds of banners and ads at that show. We're going to be showing our video, and we're going to be talking about it as people come by the booth and sign up for the show.
So how can the people here support you? What do you need them to do? You need them to send emails to people, or
At this point, no, that's a great question, Dan. At this point, the process is, first of all, I want a little bit of background. I don't know how many here remember AB 3030 2 years ago. CCA California led the charge against AB 3030 Assembly Bill that basically aimed to do the same thing that's happening right now with the 30 by 30 initiative. CCA California was effective in defeating that bill in the Senate Appropriations Committee. It basically died and did not move on. Unfortunately, 2 weeks later, the governor signed an executive order initiating the 30 by 30 process all over again, basically ignoring the will of the legislature. So it's not right now, because it's an executive order, it's not exactly a democratic process. He's told the California Natural Resources Agency and its subdivision, the Ocean Protection Council, make this happen. And if you don't, well, you could get fired. So that's what's happening right now. There are opportunities for public input. There will be. And we are also lobbying local politicians and politicians in Sacramento to speak up against it in terms of preserving fishing access. CCA California is not opposed to the principles of 30 by 30. We are 100% behind preserving or encouraging biodiversity, battling climate change, creating healthy marine ecosystems. But anglers, quite honestly, are not the problem. Anglers take a minuscule number of fish compared to what habitat degradation causes, agricultural runoff, urban runoff, sewage spills, over commercial fishing, all do far more damage than than you and me out there, Dan, catching some sand bass. Okay, that's not the problem. We're not the problem, but the state seems to think that anglers are a huge problem, and they want to lock us out of coastal areas.
so you have a couple of questions. Adrian wants to know: is this 30-30 thing strictly a commercial thing, or is this to close fishing for commercial and recreational anglers?
Great question. It's first of all, the lines have not been drawn yet, and we don't know what's going to happen. But at this point, if you look at history, you look at the MLPA implementation and the MPAs that exist out there, they have closed both recreational fishing and commercial fishing access to a lot of areas. So it could be, it very likely will be both if we don't do something about it. So CCA California is primarily concerned with the recreational angling public. For those people who just want to go out on a party boat or a private boat or surf fish and catch a few fish, whether they keep them or not is that's up to them as long as it's legal. We don't care, but those are the people that we are most interested in serving. So we want to preserve recreational fishing access for everybody.
Tony's asking, have they proposed any areas yet? Or right now it's just, there's no areas talked about, it's just their goal is 30%?
No, so I'm going to hold up something here. I don't know if I can see it or not, but this is the map of the current MPA network. Can't really see it, I guess. This is it right here, the map. So right now, that's the current MPA network. They have not started to draw the lines yet for the new areas that would be added to the current network of marine protected areas. If that by the time that occurs, the problem is it will be too late. If we don't do something now to get assurances that recreational fishing will be allowed within the new areas, now we will have lost. So as soon as they start to draw those lines, we might as well give up, because they're going to do what they want to do. So right now, we're trying to create an immense amount of public awareness and political pressure on regulators to recognize recreational fishing as a legitimate activity within any new 30 by 30 areas.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it just seems really intrusive that they want to even contemplate that. That it's
California is a different state. At the federal level, there's a 30 by 30 movement afoot, and it's a much more reasonable program. It's called America the Beautiful. They don't call it 30 by 30. It's called America the Beautiful, and it recognizes recreational fishing as a legitimate activity within any new areas. And most of the states in the southeast and around the country, on the Gulf states, you know, recreational fishing is not threatened. It's primarily here in California and a little bit, what I found out lately, up in Oregon as well. But the problem is, and this really doesn't concern you and me too much, but once 30 by 30, a plan for 30 by 30 gets established here in California, and it bans fishing within those new areas, a lot of states like New York and New Jersey, Oregon, and Washington follow California's lead. So what you're going to find is this might, when California sneezes, the rest of the country is going to catch a cold, is what's going to happen. So it could spread all across the country. But right now we're focused on making sure that the regulators talk to us. They recognize us as stakeholders in the process, and they recognize that recreational fishing is a legitimate and rightful activity here in the state of California.
Yeah, there's a couple more people asking, what can the average fisherman do to help? But I guess you kind of covered that already.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to that. I mean, first of all, I'm sure that a lot of the people listening in and viewing this are already members of CCA California. But if you're not, I encourage you to please join. Once again, it's like the only statewide organization fighting for anglers' rights. So we have to unite to defeat this thing. It's $40 a year to join CCA California. If you join at the PCS show, by the way, they have a great package going. It's $60. It gets you a 1-year membership. It gets you into the show, and it gets you a subscription to PCS magazine, and it gets you a goodie bag. It's a great deal. So if you want to join at the show, you can go online to ccacalifornia.org and pre-register, and you won't have to wait in line to get in. You'll just show them your receipt, you walk right into the show. So that's a great deal.
All right, I don't want to not lo- I don't want to waste this opportunity to have you here and not talk about fishing, because you are one of the best anglers I know. So,
Thanks.
is there any tips you can give people with the upcoming season? I mean, I don't know what you think about the new rock fishing regulations, what they're proposing. How in September we have to fish 500 feet or deeper, 2 hooks.
Right.
I mean, I just see
600
a
feet.
lot of
600
electric
feet.
reels being sold.
Right. You can't get an electric reel right now, by the way. I looked around. They're tough to find. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of new depths explored. I think it's outside 600 feet. You can fish after September 15th, I believe it is. So, and you can't fish shallower than 600 feet after that point either. So it also has to be deeper. So one of the cool fisheries that I'm planning to explore and perhaps do a story on is sablefish. And we have been kind of locked out of those waters. There's deep waters where the sablefish live, and they're delicious eating. Some people call them black cod,
Right.
and I want to go out there and try to catch sablefish. I think you still have to. You can only use 2 hooks. Just
Right.
same regulations. But I think it will be fun to go out there with an electric reel and drop down with 4 pounds of lead down to 600 to 1,000 feet out on the mud and see what we can pull up out there. So I think that will be an emerge. I think you're going to hear about a lot of people going out and trying that because it'll be an emerging fishery here in Southern California. Well, it'll be interesting to see if we have any of the sport boats going out there and trying it. Sablefish specials. I
Yeah, I might have to
remember.
do that on my private charters.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I got an electric reel.
I already have 2 electric reels. Maybe I need to get 2 more. One of the guys was asking why not get the courts to do an injunction against the 30-30.
Well, I don't know that we have a legal basis for challenging the governor's executive order, um, but that certainly is one avenue to explore. I know a lot of the governor's executive orders have been challenged and overturned, but there is usually some constitutional amendment that they were challenging First Amendment rights, for example, or something like that. I'm not a legal expert, so I really can't tell you if there's a legal basis for doing that. I think we really need to know what, ultimately, if the outcome is not what we want, we need to look at it and decide whether we want to actually challenge the law or not. I think a good thing about the executive order, by the way, is that an executive order, first of all, I think this is a classic case of executive overreach. I mean, executive orders are designed to be used in emergencies. We have heavy snowpack and people need help, or there's flooding, or there's an earthquake. You can't wait for the legislature to do something, so you issue an executive order. However, the governor seemed to think that this was an emergency, 30 by 30, that we were in a climate crisis, that we were in a biodiversity crisis, and so he used that as his reasoning for signing an executive order to establish this plan. So I'm not sure that that's the route we want to take right now. We listen. We want to work with the state on this. We're not opposed to biodiversity. We're not opposed to battling climate change. We're not opposed to promoting healthy ecosystems. We just want to be able to fish. And that's it. And if the state turned around and said, oh yeah, you in the new plan, you can fish anywhere in the new areas that we create. Not only would we not oppose 30 by 30, we might become advocates for 30 by 30. But at this point, it's a clearly one-sided anti-fishing plan, and it's not a plan that we can get behind until we know that we have some assurances that anglers listening here, all anglers in California, will be able to fish in these new areas.
So some of the guys are asking fishing questions. So
Okay.
Tim wants to know on a jig, say a jig has a treble hook and maybe two assist hooks. Um, is that considered one hook, or is that considered?
No, you can have, if you're like doing slow pitch jigging for rockfish. We're talking about rockfish here because that's where the
Okay.
hook limit
Yeah, just
are
rockfish right now.
imposed. So if you're doing like slow pitch or jigging, a bottom jigging, and you have the maximum number of hooks you can have. A treble hook would count as one hook, and as an assist hook would count as a second hook. Or you can do two assist hooks. I recently went out with Cesar Chavez to learn his techniques for slow pitch fishing, and we were very careful to use only two assist hooks, one at the top of the slow pitch jig and one at the bottom of the slow pitch jig. So you don't want to use any more than that for rock fishing.
So no trouble. I mean, in that situation, no treble hooks. Just a hook in the top and a hook in the bottom.
In that case, yeah, that's what we did. We did a single hook at the bottom, a single hook at the top, and that was it. We wanted to be compliant with the rockfish regulations. This was before we did this in October or November, I think, last year, I should say.
How'd you guys do?
We did pretty good. We got some nice. It's an interesting technique. Have you ever tried the slow pitch fishing?
I don't know if I've done it or not. I mean, I'm not sure what
It's
the difference is.
if you would know if you did it because it was the first time I ever did it, and it's interesting. We were fishing anywhere from 350 out to over 400 feet with very very small reels, very small to high speed reels, and very limber rods,
Rods.
conventional rods, with like 20 and 30 pound test braid, and using they measure the jigs in grams, but I think we went from like 120 up to like 400 grams on these jigs, and it's almost the opposite of speed jigging. It's you drop it to the bottom. You want to be as vertical as possible. You can't scope out too much on this. You want to get straight up and down like you would normally with rockfish, and you basically lift the rod very slowly. It's got a very limber slow taper to it, and then you kind of follow it down. And you can, and when you pitch it up, it's called pitching. You when you pitch it up, you can pitch it up at different angles and give that jig kind of a fluttering motion on the way up, and then back on the way down. And most of the bites come on as that jig is fluttering down. It's not too different from what we do, what we do with your jigs, pitching them up and down. It's just a different way of doing the same thing, but it can be very effective. But the rods, interestingly, are not built for fighting fish. So you hook a 6-pound red on that rod. You can't pump it. You just have to point the rod down at about a 45-degree angle and wind. Try doing that for 400 feet. That's hard.
So having a limp rod like that, does that really affect the action of the jig that much?
Yeah, that's the theory. Yeah, that it basically it recoils very nicely when you lift it up, and then of course you follow the jig back down. Sometimes you wind a little bit of line on the way down to keep the line tight, and then that rod bends all the way down to the handle when you're slowly pitching it up. But you don't want to like lift real fast. It's just a little slow lift, and then drop back down.
What happens if you hook a 100-pound tuna?
Well, you're in trouble. You're in trouble with that. I think I would like to deal with that problem, but not with that rod. Not with that rod.
That's cool. You want to give any tips on white sea bass fishing? Because I don't know too many people that catch as many as you do.
Oh, please. It'll be interesting. They're already catching white sea bass out there. Bob Elliott, one of my friends, he's been going out. I don't know where he's going. He hasn't told me, but I think he's going out to San Clemente Island. He's been catching the squid are around, and he's been catching them. The key, as everybody knows, is having squid. Live squid is the best bait for these fish, and you can't be lazy if you're white sea bass fishing. You got to get an early start. Sometimes you spend the night, out sitting on the grounds, trying to catch your own squid. So most of my fishing has been at Catalina. I fish around the backside, and I do what everybody else does. I fish deep in the gray hours out on the squid grounds, and then move along the beaches to fish for the white sea bass along the beaches and along the edge of the kelp. So Catalina is so current dependent. I think every piece of water is current dependent, but you really have to have that current going, and you have to have patience. You can't. I think white sea bass. The thing is, you can't just say, "Oh, we're going to try this for an hour and then go do something else." If you really want to be successful at it, you have to sit there and you have to chum, and you have to keep your baits in the water all the time, and look. You want to be looking for the right signs. So when we're fishing on the beaches, we're looking to catch we're looking for the yellowfin croakers. If the yellowfin croakers are biting, or the sargo are biting, we know we're in the right area, because those yellowfin and those sargos will turn into white sea bass eventually. Because the white sea bass, the yellowfin croaker aren't in there for no reason. They're there because there's food in the area. And but they're picking away at whatever's washing in on the beach from the squid grounds. So the key is to look for life. If you're not getting that kind of life, and I mean, there's certain kinds of life you don't want. You don't want bat rays, and you don't want leopard sharks. They just won't. You won't get bit if you got those things biting all the time. So you want the little wingdings, maybe there's halibut in the area. You catch a halibut, whether it's a short that you have to release or a legal halibut, that's a good sign. Halibut are in there doing the same thing that the white sea bass. The only thing is the white sea bass, they cruise through and then they leave. So you're waiting for what we call a drive-by. You're waiting for a school of tankers to swim through and find your squid, and then once that happens, it happens fast. A lot of times you'll have 3 rods out, 3 guys on board with 3 rods, all 3 are bit at once. and that might be the whole only bite you get for the day.
Yeah, I've
But you
seen
have to
that.
sit. You have to stick there. You have to stick with it.
Right.
I'll tell you. Here's another sign. If you see the highliners in the area, you see uh, the options. If he's
The
if he's in the
dreamer.
area fishing, the dreamer. You see those boats in there fishing, and I mean, not that you want to crowd them or anything. You just know they're in the area. They could be a quarter mile away, half a mile away. I don't care. You don't want to crowd them. But if they're hanging in that area, say it's the east backside of Catalina, if they haven't left, they're hanging on the beaches, then pick a beach and do the same. Wait in there because they're there every day, day in and day out. There's the other thing is they have those local skiffs that come around from Avalon. You
Right.
got the guys just fishing, and that's all they're doing is they're targeting white sea bass, maybe yellowtail. So if you see one of those local skiffs in there fishing, it's a good sign. If he's hanging, well, first of all, if he comes in there and he leaves quick, it's probably because he's caught a fish and he's going back to Avalon. But if he's hanging in the area as well, kind of look where he's fishing. If he's fishing in shallow or he's fishing deep, that'll tell you where you got to kind of start to target those fish.
Those big sandy beaches, like on the east end backside. Are you
Hmm.
drifting that? Are you anchored on that, or
Anchor,
anchored?
anchor up. Yeah, we get the anchor down, and you get sometimes in shallow it's like 10 or 15 feet. Get the anchor down, and provided it's safe. If there's a big swell running, stay clear of the beach. But if it's nice and calm, get in there. Start chumming, chopping up some squid, getting it out, flowing out in the current behind the boat. Wait for those little guys to come in. It seems like if you get a nice little array of croakers and little calicos and stuff like that, kind of moving in,
Mm-hmm.
the white sea bass will get kind of curious and crash the party. So, and if you got the calicos balled up behind the boat on the chum, and all of a sudden they clear out, hang on, because that means the big boys are moving in.
Yeah, they don't want to get eaten.
Yeah,
When I
yeah,
go
they get out
fishing
of
out of
there.
Monterey, I notice those guys up there will catch their live squid on their skiffs, but they won't fish it until it's dead. They like to throw it in
Well,
buckets and kill it.
it probably works just fine. I mean, I've caught tons of white sea bass on dead squid. So, I mean, not by choice, just because that's all I had.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing is if you do have squid left over at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with bringing it home, putting it in Ziploc bags and freezing it, because the next time you go there, you may not have live squid. It may not be available.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a good idea to bag up as much fresh frozen squid as you possibly can. If you don't use it for bait, you can use it. You're going to be using it for chum.
And how important to you is it? Like I've always heard, you see milky looking water on you drive by a beach. That's probably a beach you want to look for the sea bass instead of crystal
Yeah,
clear.
definitely. You want a break. So the sea bass don't like bright daylight. They don't like sun. They kind of want to hide in the shadows. That's why they call it the gray ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, if they can't find a kelp bed to hide in the shadows of a kelp bed, they're going to go for that milky water along. And the sharper the break between the milky water and the next color, the better. And you basically, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've fished with Gary Adams on the rail time, and I can't tell you how many times he goes, okay, and that milky water moves around. It doesn't hold still. It's very dynamic, and sometimes it'll move away from the beach and close to the boat, and sometimes away, and there'll be little undulations and eddies of it. So, but I can't tell you how many times he said, "Here comes the conditions. That milky water is starting to move out toward the boat." He said, "Put your bait right on the edge of that milky water." The other thing I'll say about white sea bass is don't just fish off the front of the boat. One of the things we do, we've got rod holders on the back of the boat. We got rod holders on the front of the boat on the rail, and we put either dropper loops or white jigs with a pin of squid on it and fish them off the front of the boat. And so we just let them hang, by the way. Nobody works them. They just fish up there. and you fish them with a fairly tight drag. You might loosen up a little bit if you're dead sticking, but many times you'll be fishing off the back of the boat, and all of a sudden one of the rods in the front rod holders will go off, and it's just bent over double. And it's like sometimes that's the only fish we catch
Right.
are those. So, and the other thing is, use heavy tackle. My goodness, yeah, 65-pound braid minimum, 40-pound fluorocarbon leaders minimum, and 8/0 Aki twist hooks. That's what I like to use. So don't go light tackle on these fish. They are not line shy, and use a heavy drag on them. Don't
Yeah.
let them get don't let them get into the kelp.
Yeah, I've seen that at the island several times. When they want to bite, they don't care. Everybody in the boat gets bit.
Yeah, they're not. They are when they come through and they see the squid, they're not line shy. They eat.
So one of the guys was asking here for rock fishing, if he was to use the double dropper loop rig and wanted to use treble hooks, which I'm not sure why you would want to, if that's legal.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to ask. I'd have to put that to the DFG and ask them.
All right,
I
we
don't
can.
use. I don't use that. I just don't know if that's legal or not. But I get a sense it probably is.
I
If you
would
want to
think it
use
would
two,
be legal, but
two treble
we'll both
hooks.
be at PCS, so we can just ask.
Yeah, let's ask the Department of Fish and Wildlife wardens if that's a legal rig. But yeah, most of the time a lot of times I just use a single hook when I'm rock fishing, but two single hooks it's the way I would go with it.
Yeah, especially your rock fishing. If you get your line flat down on the bottom, it's just another hook to get snagged on the bottom.
Yeah, that's why on the iron jigs, heavy iron jigs, fishing them down there, I always switch over to a single hook on the bottom. And they usually pin on a squid or some sort of plastic or gulp or something like that on the bottom to give it a little bit more action, make it look big.
So Tamara's asking you a question, Tamara. She wants to know if you've ever done any big game fishing at the local islands for fish like swordfish.
I have.
Yeah.
I've done, I've done the deep drop sword fishing stuff. Not very successfully though. I'll say that. I got into it a couple of years ago. Me and a friend went out and here talk about dedicating yourself to a technique.
Yeah.
You better be ready to sit all day and catch full limits of boring if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
It is. It only gets exciting if you get a bite. And we've had a couple, and they didn't pan out. They came unbuttoned. But it's a highly specialized technique. We use electric reels for it, and we fish two rods. We fish what's called a tip rod, which is straight up and down. Drop that one down. First of all, the where they're finding these deep drop swordfish is kind of on the edges of the canyons and edges of the seamounts, and typically they fish anywhere from bottoms from 1,400 feet down to 2,000 feet. So you're looking for that kind of slopey edge of a canyon or edge of a seamount, but you don't fish your bait on the bottom. You fish your rigged squid at around anywhere from 900 to 1,200 feet, where you need to find the thermocline and the deep, what they call the deep scattering layer, which is this layer of life in the deep abyss where the swordfish are cruising through looking for squids and small fishes and things like that. And that's where you kind of want to put these big rigged squids. We typically fish one rod. We call it tip rod, straight up and down. And we'll put that at about 1,100 feet, about 1,100 feet down, with, by the way, 9 pounds of weight. so, uh, and then we fish another one on a buoy uh, way out beyond back of the boat, and we usually put that one down around 900 feet. So you drop that down 900 feet, attach a big buoy to it, and then drop back another 150, 200 feet behind the boat, and then you put your vertical rod down. And it's interesting when you get bit on the buoy. The buoy, of course, is hanging straight up and down because you got this heavy weight pulling it down, and it's on a pole. And then, but when you get bit, it doesn't go down like a bobber. You would think, oh, get bit, he's pulling it underwater. No, it falls over, just falls over flat. And that's because the swordfish has eaten the squid and is now swimming upward with it. They feel the pressure. They won't let go. They swallow the squid is the hope, but they feel the pressure of that 9-pound weight on them, and they freaks them out. So their first inclination is to rocket for the surface. And it takes a while, though, even though they're fast swimmers, it takes a while to reach the surface from 1,000 feet down. So you got, that gives you time to get one rod in because you don't want to tangle up with the other one, and then bring in the other rod, get the buoy unclipped, and then get tight with the fish. So it's a very exciting time when that happens. And someday I'll do it, but I've spent 8-10 hours out there drifting out on the ocean waiting for a bite.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he does it every once in a while, a couple times a month. In December, he got a nice big one. I shouldn't say big one, but it was a couple 100 pounds.
Yeah, that's about my speed. I don't want anything any bigger than that. That would, and they, I don't know. The ones I've seen have come up pretty docile. It's not like the swordfish they hook on the surface where they're hot, they're purple and they're hot, and the fight goes on for hours. Most of these fights is just a matter of once you see him on the surface, he'll come up, hooked, and he'll stick his bill out of the water and do the windshield wiper thing, and then it's a matter of and that may be 100, 150 feet from the boat, and then it's just a matter of battling him from that point on. And a lot of times they'll come up gray because they're still cold from being way, way, way down deep, and they have no energy because they're so cold, and so it can be a pretty quick battle. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. So Fish Guy is asking, for your rig, are you using fluoro to the hook or for the abrasion, or are you just using regular mono?
For what technique? Is it for the white sea bass?
No, for the swordfish.
So the swordfish, there's an interesting conversation taking place about mono versus fluoro for swordfish. The experts believe that mono is a better choice for swordfish because it refracts less light than and they have huge eyes. The eyes on the swordfish are as big as a softball, and so they can see a lot. They gather a lot of light with their eyes. So the theory is you don't want to use fluoro because it refracts light and they can see it. So that's what we do. We use 300-pound mono leaders for these, and we use a swivel to attach about a 15-foot leader going from the swivel to the rigged squid, and the other thing is you attach there's a lot of hardware involved here. You attach a bunch of water-activated lights that can stand the pressure. So I have 4 water-activated lights along my leader above the swivel. And then I have another light that I clip on to the sinker, a strobe light that you turn on, a big strobe light. It's about, I don't know, big as a shot glass. And you turn that on, and then the strobe light's strobing the whole time. And the other lights are they're red, purple, green, yellow lights are flashing all the time. The idea is that you want to attract bait to those lights. You want to attract squid and things like that. So you want those lights flashing. That's your chum, basically. And then the swordfish sees the flashing lights, sees the squid swimming around the flashing lights, and comes in and then finds your bait and eats it. So that's how it works.
And it must be nice being a national editor for a national publication, so I'm sure you don't have to buy all that expensive gear.
Yeah, I get some of it. I do buy a fair amount of gear. It's
I know you do.
And so, I bought my swordfish rod that I have. It's a real, it's a nice locally made swordfish rod with a bent butt on it. And so there's a fair amount. And I've tapped some guys who know how to rig the leaders. So they've rigged, they do the wind on leaders, which is important. You have to do a good bimini twist, and then a wind on leader to the bimini. And then if you're fishing a buoy, there's a second monofilament leader that goes uh, in the middle of your spool. It sounds crazy. I know this sounds crazy, but you need another. You can't just attach that buoy to your braid, because I'm fishing 100 to 100 pound braid. That's what I'm fishing. You don't want to clip that right to the braid. So you put a inline leader in, about, in my case, I put it 900 feet up, and then there's a wind on loop on the leader, and that's what you clip the buoy to. So it holds it right there.
Now,
So
last
it's,
year
it's
I
like,
saw probably 2 or 3 swordfish coming back from Catalina from my private charters. One of them, the clients wanted to fish for it, and I said, "You want to be back in under an hour? We don't have the time." If
that's
we
if you're
hook it,
that's
we're
if
gonna
you're
be
lucky
here.
enough to get a bite.
Yeah, if we get lucky enough to get a bite,
Yeah.
we'll be
Then
there
you
for
have
at
to be
least 10
prepared
hours.
for those fish. Those surface fish are, you better have the right gear to bait them, and be
That,
prepared to spend some time with them.
that's why those guys spear them.
Yeah. Yeah. They see, harpoon them. Yeah.
All right. Well, before I lose you here, it's almost 8 o'clock. We have a bunch of new people on right now, about 80 some people on right now. So can you just recap again the 30-30 for everybody?
Sure, sure. If you want to learn more about 30 by 30, please go to ccacalifornia.org. We have a landing page there. It'll tell you all about the state's plan. We basically publish the state's plan there. So uh, you can read the pathways to 30 by 30. It will uh, it will tell you what's in the offing, and we also offer our take on what's going to happen with 30 by 30, both in videos and in advertisements and flyers. There's background papers on it. I've written background papers. There's news releases. There's all kinds of in-depth information. You can dig in as deep as you want there. But I think the important thing here is that to the state, 30 by 30 means no fishing. So if we need to change that mindset, and the only way we're going to do it is to unite. And the best way to unite is to join CCA California, Coastal Conservation Association of California, and join the fight.
That's good. Good advice. Let me see if I can join you here. There we are. I can't believe this is my 37th year on television.
Congratulations.
Remember when I started, I thought maybe I would last 6 months, but can't believe this is year 37. So never thought I was going to be an old timer in the industry. I
I have
remember
to I have to do I have to do a shout out to my son who records your program and watches it every weekend. He just
oh, okay.
loves your show. He got into fishing with ring hooks because of you. He says, "Well, Dan Hernandez says to do it. I'm doing it."
That's funny. His dad's one of the best anglers on the West Coast. That's funny. Any last things you want to tell our people? I mean, everybody should. You'll be walking around the show, or will you be in the CCA booth, or?
I will be there. I'll be at Bart Hall Long Beach show there. Yeah, please, if you see me, please stop me, and I'll be glad to answer any questions on 30 by 30 or any fishing questions, anything that you'd like me to talk. I'll talk to anybody who'll listen.
Well, I have to have you back on here again. We can talk more fishing, and then you can give us
Very
some
cool.
updates on CCA and all that. When you guys have some fundraisers, let us know. We'll help market it for you guys.
I will do that. Thanks so much, Dan, for all your help and support of CCA California. I appreciate it so much. I think it's an important organization for us all to belong to and to support. We're like the NRA for fishermen here in the state of California. We need somebody who's fighting for anglers' rights, and that's really what CCA California is doing right now.
They're asking if you're going to be at Day at the Docks. Will CCA be there?
CCA will be there, and I will plan to be there as well. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's a great. I love Day at the Docks. I think that's one of the funnest events of the year. It's just so much fun, and the people are great, and such a festive atmosphere. I
Best thing
plan to
about
be
Day
there.
at the Docks is it's a 1 day event.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
One and done.
Trouble is when you're exhibiting, you got to get there at like 6 in the morning to get set up. But you get to watch the sun come up, and I think that's
Yeah,
pretty
I
cool.
already
Pretty
got a
cool.
hotel room. I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I'll
It'll
do
be
that.
fun. It'll be fun.
All right. Well, thanks, Jim. I greatly appreciate it. And you were one of the early guys to support me back in the day. So, greatly appreciate it. Glad we had you on here. And say hi to the boys for me. And anytime you want to come back, just let me know. We had
All right.
115 likes. So, appreciate that.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so
All right.
much. I
I'll see you at
appreciate
the
it.
show this week.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right. Well, that's Jim Hendricks. And he is the national editor for Saltwater Sportsman. Great publication. And he's been a friend for a long, long time. So I'm glad we're able to get him on here. Tamara, this was your idea, so we did it. So hopefully you liked it. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your support. I'll be at the show this week. I'm going to try to do the show on Thursday. I don't know exactly what's going to happen because I'll be at the show, Pacific Coast show. I think it's over at 7, but I'm not sure if it goes on to 8. I have to check the hours again. Just a reminder, Kevin and the other guys, if you can be there tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the office so we can load up and go take everything down to the show and set up, I greatly appreciate it. All right, guys. Good night, everybody. See you all later. And thanks again.